You and your family live a healthier life.
So to all the moms, the aunts, grandmothers, and amazing women out there doing it all.
Visit GoRedForWomen.org/momlife today.
You take care of them, Go Red for Women will take care of you.
Are you over the age of 50? Want peace of mind and financial security for your family? Here's an important message to you from Senior Care USA. The average funeral now costs over $10,000. That leaves your loved ones the burden of paying your debts and funeral costs. Our plans start as low as $1 per day and will pay your family up to $30,000 to help pay for your funeral and other expenses. There are no medical exams. Your rates will never increase, and your plan cannot be canceled, regardless of your medical conditions, as long as you make your premium payments. Get up to $30,000 in final expense insurance. Call now for free information. Just answer a few simple questions and get approved right over the phone in just a few minutes. Call right now.
Call 800-378-3818. 800-378-3818. 800-378-3818. That's 800-378-3818.
Marc is the CEO of Veterans Development Corporation. His dedication to serving our veterans has made an incredible impact on his family and employees. And he is so proud to be the presenting sponsor of the DAV 5K Boston.
This is Brittany Vonner. I'm a registered nurse who is now working as an assistant project manager at Veterans Development Corporation. Working with my father, Marc, has been an incredibly rewarding experience. Our company is dedicated to serving VA hospitals and veteran communities. We don't just build facilities, we build environments that support healing, resilience, and family. We are so proud to see our work directly impact the lives of veterans and the professionals who care for them. This rich history is why we care so much about supporting great organizations such as the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts in the work they do to care for our veterans.
Join Veterans Development Corporation in thanking our great American heroes. Please visit DAV5K.Boston to show your support today.
This is Tucker Silva of the Financial Exchange Show, and I'm joined today by estate planning attorney Todd Lutzke from the law firm of Cushing & Dolan with your Financial Exchange quick tip of the day. And today we're talking about estate tax reduction and asset protection strategies that can help reduce or eliminate your estate taxes. Todd, there have been major changes with the Massachusetts exemption amounts. What is the new exemption for the state? Does that mean that a married couple living in Massachusetts with $4 million in assets could eliminate their estate taxes?
So yes, there has been some changes. Now we're almost a full year in, of course, heading into a second year into the change. The change is now $2 million. It used to be $1 million for estate tax exemption. Now it's up to $2 million. And yes, if you are married, but you actually do trust planning, you can shelter $4 million. But folks, that doesn't mean that's all you do. For folks with $3 million that want to eliminate taxes, we can do that. But we can also think about protecting assets from the cost of long-term care. It allows us to do both a little easier now with a higher estate tax exemption. So think about ways in which you can use the irrevocable trust to not only shelter and be able to reduce your estate tax by sheltering up to $2 million on the death of each spouse, but also starting that important 5-year waiting period running to protect those assets from the cost of long-term care.
The law firm of Cushing & Dolan have been helping families like yours for more than 40 years. Request your copy of Todd's brand new guide. It's called Balancing Asset Protection and Avoiding Estate Taxes. You can call 866-848-5699. That's 866-848-5699, or you can request the guide from their website, legalexchangeshow.com.
The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and/or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing and Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated. The Financial Exchange is produced by Money Matters Radio and is hosted by employees of the Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. All opinions expressed are solely those of the hosts, do not reflect the opinions of Armstrong Advisory or anyone else. Investments can lose money. This program does not offer any specific financial or investment advice. Please consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong Advisory and the advertisers heard on this program do not endorse each other or their services. Armstrong and Money Matters Radio do not compensate each other for referrals and are not affiliated. This is the Financial Exchange with Chuck Zodda and Marc Fandetti. Your exclusive look at business and financial news affecting your day, your city, your world. Stay informed and up to date about economic and market trends, plus breaking business news every day. The Financial Exchange is a proud partner of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. Help us support our great American heroes by visiting dav5k.boston and making a donation today. This is the Financial Exchange with Chuck Zodda and Marc Fandetti.
Chuck, Mark, Tucker with you here on a Wednesday. And we're going to kick things off with this piece from Barron's. November ADP jobs data could complicate the Fed's rate decision. First of all, I really don't think the Fed is paying a ton of attention to the ADP report. I just don't think it's something that is really on their radar. And the reason why is historically, what has mattered to the Fed is what is going on with the unemployment rate. And given the fact that historically the ADP report has not had a strong correlation with the unemployment report, the Fed has generally said, no, we're not going to pay, a ton of attention. Like it's not something that anyone really pays attention to because it's just historically not been something that's a great month-to-month correlation with the unemployment rate. You're looking at me like I have eight heads.
Yeah, I found that it does. Maybe a sample I was looking at was wrong. It helps you predict it a little bit.
The what kind of correlation?
If you know
do you
the AP, if you know ADP,
recently it's been good.
Oh yeah,
historically it has not.
Whatever Fed data, the Federal Reserve Economic Data. I don't know why I'm waving at the camera, but anyway, whatever the Federal Reserve Economic Database goes back to, maybe it's only the early 2020s. I forget, but if you know it, it helps you do a better forecast of the
last 2 years. It's been very locked in.
Yeah, and that can distort averages, which is what I'm reporting to you. Never mind.
So I think here's where I get to when looking at this. The Fed, the reason why the Fed's not going to care about the ADP report is because it's one report and they generally haven't paid attention to it ever.
I see your point. Okay.
What does matter right now, Fed's Beige Book, which came out last week, says that employment is shrinking. ADP says employment is shrinking. The BLS says the unemployment rate is going up. Continuous jobless claims rising 5 to 7% year over year. You've got WARN notices that are rising. Challenger Gray and Christmas is saying that layoffs are going up. It's really hard right now to find something out there that you look at and say, yep, labor market's cranking. And so given that,
yes, absolutely.
I don't think the November ADP jobs data could complicate the Fed's rate decision, especially since it came in this morning bad. 32,000 jobs lost compared to a range of 5 to 15,000 gained expected. And I think that when you look at this, ultimately, the outlier that we have right now is that the September jobs report, the headline jobs created number came in stronger than anticipated, even as the unemployment rate rose. But basically, aside from that, the message that you're getting right now is, yes, companies haven't been laying people off, too quickly this year. There are signs that may be starting to shift, and the overall hiring picture has remained very, very slow. And so, as such, net job growth is probably somewhere around zero. It might be plus or minus 50,000 for a month, but it's probably somewhere flattish. And assuming that those errors don't trend in any direction, flat is not really a great place for a job market to be. If you look at other data that we track, another one that's out there, withholding for Social Security taxes and FICA. If you look at the data, we've gone through a deceleration since the middle of the year where FICA withholding was growing at a rate of about 7% in July. It's now declined each of the last 4 months to be at around a 3.2% annual growth rate. You might say, hey, why is FICA withholding, growing at 3% despite a flat job market? Isn't there a disconnect there? And the answer that I'll say is no, because if you are working, generally, even if you stay at the same company, you might get a raise of 1 to 3%. And if you're hopping to a new firm, you might get a paid bump of 4 to 6%. And so 3% year over year growth in FICA withholding, which is actually capturing like what's going into the U.S. Treasury from payrolls, is pretty consistent with flat job growth. The place where things get dangerous is if FICA withholding continues to decline here, because now that's indicative of a labor market that is in decline. But all these factors are pointing towards the same thing, which is the labor market's been weakening for the last 3 to 4 years now, since mid-22. It's probably starting to reach a critical point where if it doesn't improve in Q1 of 26, you've got some real issues that show up in the economy. And as such, I continue to be in the same place, which is the Fed, based on what they've already done, should be cutting in December. But that cut is not likely to matter because if the economy worsens, you're going to need another 150 or 200 basis points of cuts anyways. A policy error is not made at one meeting. It's made by making the wrong choice repeatedly. And so whether the Fed does or doesn't cut in December is immaterial, in my opinion.
The Fed may not be able to do anything about a softening labor market. It depends on why the labor market is softening.
Sure.
The Fed, you could think of the Fed as controlling demand. That's a real oversimplification, but we all know that they control, in a literal sense, the money supply. They can print money. They tell the Treasury to print money. They credit it to banks, and banks lend it. That is a very short fairy tale of the mechanism. So they try to stimulate the economy when they think it's getting soft, and vice versa when they think it's running too hot. That suggests there is some happy medium. We don't know what that is. You could call it the if you ever took an economics class, you'd recognize the neutral or natural rate of unemployment. Milton Friedman, among others, came up with the concept, really popularized it. It exists. We just don't know what it is. Maybe the right natural rate has gone up. We're cutting immigration.
Sure.
Labor market changed a lot after COVID. Maybe the natural rate or the non-inflationary rate, not technically the same things, but I'll use those terms interchangeably. Maybe the non-inflationary rate of unemployment, and that means just what it says. You go below it, pushes inflation up. You stay at it or above it, inflation is static or falling. That non-inflationary rate may have gone up. We don't know. That's the Fed's challenge. Inflation, as we know, is I'll give the counter to the argument you made. Inflation is still elevated. Maybe the natural rate is, and growth by all accounts, and the data's been foggy lately or just missing. Growth is still on track to hit a trend or potential, which is roughly 2%. Maybe Fed funds is just right. That's what worries me a bit.
I think so. Couple pieces just on this. If you want to take the view that, hey, the Fed doesn't need to do something and you're looking for data points in your favor, one that is showing up the last couple weeks, Indeed's jobs posting index is showing a meaningful rise in job openings.
Yeah.
The counter to this is that it showed a similar bump in late August that turned out to be like a 1 month bump and then resumed a decline that it's been on since the start of 2022.
Yeah.
So, again, I don't think you can say there's a clear change in trend yet because it's been 3 weeks of increased openings, and 3 weeks does not a new trend make there. But if you're looking for positive data in the labor market, this is, one of those few data points that you can point to and say, yeah, things are better here. On the inflation side of things.
Can I say one thing about labor, though?
Yeah.
I'm not disputing that it's softening. I'm
Totally.
wondering whether I know you and I aren't. We're not arguing. We just pretend to. What I'm wondering is, can the Fed do anything?
You think we're pretending? You think we're pretending?
I friggin' hate you.
You think we're pretending? I asked Tucker to turn your mic off before the show, and now
you're fired after this show. First of all, Jack. No, I mean, labor market could be indisputably softening. I wonder if the Fed can do anything. It sounds foolish because we think of the Fed as a miracle worker, but never mind the lags with which policy works. You hinted at this. Interest rate cuts today may not affect the economy for a few, even several quarters. What if we don't have a demand problem? This was the problem throughout the 1970s, so I'm having these nightmares that we're reliving it. The Fed kept thinking, right? The Fed kept thinking the natural rate is lower than the actual rate. We can do something about that. We could stimulate demand. What they weren't taking into account was that they misread. They didn't think of things in the terms. This is a little bit of an anachronism. They didn't think of it in these terms. but the parallels are pretty clear. They just misread the productive potential of the economy over and over again throughout the 1970s, and they misread underlying inflationary pressure over and over again. So we ended up with a decade of choppy growth, still good on average, but choppy, and uncomfortably high inflation that it took a massive recession to wring out of the economy. Sorry, go ahead.
Quick break. When we come back, I want to talk more about that inflation piece after this.
This is your home for the most comprehensive coverage of the economy and the trends on Wall Street. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
The Armstrong Advisory Group understands retirement planning, and when it comes to married couples, it can be about more than money. Hi, this is Mike Armstrong, and our new guide called Retirement Planning for Spouses tackles many issues that couples face as they're preparing for later life. This guide keeps things simple, focusing on important matters such as making sure both partners understand where their money's coming from in retirement, being aware of scams, how to stay organized if one spouse outlives the other, and ways to handle gifts, donations, or legacy goals as a team. It's a straightforward look at the steps every couple can take to feel confident about retirement. Call the Armstrong Advisory Group right now at 800-393-4001 to get your free copy of Retirement Planning for Spouses. That's 800-393-4001, or you can request it online at armstrongadvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
Marc Vonner is the CEO of Veterans Development Corporation. Marc faithfully served his country from 1981 to 1984, and we're thrilled to have him as a partner and presenting sponsor of the DAV 5K Boston. Marc comes from a proud military family that includes his father Victor and brother Timmy. Marc talks often about how serving his country was one of the greatest achievements of his life, and it's one of the main reasons he chooses to give back to this special community. Marc is honored to continue the legacy that his father started when he built Veterans Development Corporation. Working to help many disabled veterans and their families has become a lifelong goal for Marc, and it's why he's taken the time to fully support the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. You can join Marc and help our great American heroes today by making a donation to support the DAV Department of Massachusetts. Please visit dav5k.boston. That's dav5k.boston.
Nobody wants to think about estate taxes or nursing home costs. But if you want to protect your money, your home, and everything you've built, you've got to get ahead of it. That's where Cushing & Dolan come in. They're experts in estate planning and elder law, and they've just released a brand new free guide called Balancing Asset Protection and Avoiding Estate Taxes. This guide lays out practical ways to keep your assets safe, and yes, even reduce or completely eliminate your estate taxes. If you already have a plan but aren't sure what your risk looks like, or you've been meaning to start one, this guide gives you exactly what you need to take control. So don't wait. Call Cushing & Dolan today at 866-848-5699 and get your free copy of their new guide called Balancing Asset Protection and Avoiding Estate Taxes. That's 866-848-5699. Or you can request it online at legalexchangeshow.com. That's legalexchangeshow.com. The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and/or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Hey, listen, are you a 50-year-old person looking for term life insurance? Then you need to talk to Bob. Bob specializes in helping people find $1 million or more of term life insurance for a couple of $100 a month. Look, you need to know there's a price war in the term life insurance business, and you may be paying too much. Call Bob, and he'll shop and see how much money he can save you. Look, this could be the last term life insurance policy you ever have. Your rates are guaranteed for the next 20 years. That's right, guaranteed level rates for the next 20 years. And if you're a smoker or your health is not perfect, Bob has great rates for you too. So for $1 million of term life insurance coverage for a couple of $100 a month, call Bob right now. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. That's 800-965-7987. Paid for by Term Direct.
Miss any of the show? Catch up at your convenience by visiting financialexchangeshow.com and clicking the on-demand icon where you'll find all of our interviews and full shows. This is your home for the latest business and financial news in New England and around the country. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
This segment of the Financial Exchange is brought to you by the U.S. Virgin Islands Department of Tourism. There's still time to book your holiday vacation to St. Croix, St. Thomas, or St. John. Enjoy one or all three, and if you act fast, you could be on St. Croix to experience their Crucian Christmas Festival taking place this December through early January. Discover the magic of this long-standing tradition with incredible food, music, and entertainment, or just go soak up the sun, stroll along white sand beaches, and feel the rhythm of the heartbeat of the islands. The USVI is America's Caribbean paradise. Plan your winterscape at visitusvi.com. That's visitusvi.com.
In the last segment, we were talking about the upcoming Fed meeting and this push-pull between, inflation and the unemployment rate and, the challenge that the Fed is facing. And I got to tell you, the more that I look at what is developing right now, the less concerned I am about a continued inflationary impulse in 26. It's not to say that it might not rear its head at some point later, but I'm just unconcerned about it for next year for a couple of reasons. The first is, Mark, we talk an awful lot about the conditions that are necessary for inflation to take hold. And it's no one knows the exact formula because there is no exact formula. It evolves and changes over time. But it's some combination of, hey, high inflation is caused by excess demand, reduced supply, and high inflation expectations. Is that a fair place to start?
Yeah, you can go with that.
So let's look at those three pieces. The one that I'm most...
Did you say supply shocks in there? Because in the short term, of course, I would
I
put the supply shock term on there, yeah.
I said, high demand,
whatever.
low supply, whatever.
Yeah.
So
whatever.
Here's the place that I'm looking here is ultimately when we look at tariff-induced inflation.
Yeah, that'd be a supply shock, yep.
It's very much something where the rate of change matters. If you impose a 15% tariff and all else being equal, nothing else changes, once you lap that year of that tariff imposition, that tariff has been absorbed by the inflation during that year, and anything from there is neutral in theory because you're not changing the tariff.
Yeah, the problem is that would affect expectations probably. But,
correct.
Yeah.
But
yeah, so one-time change is different than a gradual.
It doesn't necessarily pass through. Like tariffs are something that I really thought, again, if you had imposed like the full weight of them initially in April, they could have had a huge impact on the economy this year.
Yeah, probably.
And as we get to, next year, I just don't think that that's going to be a major factor because they're in place and it's going to be what it's going to be. Or if the Supreme Court says, no, you can't do this, it's going to be even lower. Either way, I don't see tariffs as being a major issue for inflation in 26 the way they have been a problem in 25 if you look at, goods-related inflation, which has clearly risen. So this brings us over to the services side of things. And I got to tell you, based on what we're seeing in the housing market, shelter disinflation is picking up speed rapidly. Prices are falling in the housing market in large portions of the country now. They are not in the Northeast because of, different conditions that exist to begin with. But housing is likely to have significant disinflationary trends through 2026. And as part of a result of home prices falling, I think you are likely to see some struggles in the construction industry, which in turn impacts the demand side as employment weakens further. And so I get to a place where goods inflation I don't think is going to be impacted by tariffs in 26 the same way it was this year. Services inflation, the dominant piece there is housing. I don't think you are going to see any problems on that side based on what we're seeing in the housing market. And I think demand is likely to continue to weaken in the first part of next year. And so I don't see 26 being a problem on the inflation side, which gets me more towards, hey, if there is a real problem on the labor side, which the data is starting to indicate, to be honest, I'm getting to a point where I might be okay with the Fed starting to cut faster
well, yeah,
25 bips.
you're kind of begging the question. You've assumed away all the problems, but yeah, if it all works out like that,
isn't that what the Fed does with their modeling and everything? Is they say this is what we think is going to happen, and here's the policy that we prescribe. Like, they don't just look at the snapshot of where things are today; they look at where they think things will be in the future, and they say this is what I think needs to be done. I'm getting to the point where, again, my brain model is not as fancy as the Fed models, but I'm getting to a point where it's like I see the issue on the labor side being more acute in 26 than the inflation one next year.
Yeah, if you're really worried about an economic slowdown, then and you assume no supply shocks, and you assume that inflation expectations, which are elevated, Michigan's got it at nearly 5%, 1 year ahead. If you assume that's going to, again, I'm just assuming away all the problems here. If you're willing to do that and focus just on the labor market, cut away, yeah.
That's where I get to.
That's honest.
Like I'm kind of there at this point.
But I'm a hawk. You're either a hawk or you're not. And maybe it's a liberal conservative thing. I don't know. I'm fiscally conservative. Maybe that translates into conservative. I'd rather kill inflation. My favorite number would be close to 0. But there are plenty of far more accomplished researchers than I am who are very comfortable with 3 to 5. I could live with that. But in a otherwise quiescent environment, and maybe we're not in, maybe things are fluid. Maybe I should be thinking more dynamically. But I'm aggressive when it comes to inflation. I'd rather squash it. But maybe I'm paranoid after the experience of the 1970s and the experience we just had 3 years ago when we seriously underestimated the supply-demand gap.
Look, I totally get that, and who knows, like, if either of us are right. Like, I say this is where I think things are going on the inflation side. It can obviously change. Like, I don't have a crystal ball, but this is what I'm seeing right now, and kind of where I land. And yes, like I would like to see inflation lower than it is today. I think we're going there, quite honestly, because the housing market's going to take us there. That's where I think that we're going, is housing is going to drag us there because prices are falling and likely to fall throughout more of the country next year than they have this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's one part of the economy. It's a big part, obviously.
It's historically, it's been that marginal piece. It's housing leads the economy. And maybe I'm too anchored to that view still, because look, for the last 5 years, housing has not led the economy. Housing's been kind of like dragged like along by everything else. But I guess I'm kind of looking at it and I see where home prices are going. And I kind of say, look, I've seen that story before. And usually once you start seeing year over year negative home prices nationally, which we'll get to in Q1 or Q2 based on listing prices and where things are going on that front, we'll get there in Q1 or Q2. That's pretty tough for the economy. And that's where I think we are going, is negative national home prices.
That's fair.
Let's take a quick break. When we return, Wall Street Watch and Todd Lutzke joins us for Ask Todd. Get your questions ready.
Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter @TFE Show. Breaking business news is always first, right here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Environmental nonprofit Ocean River Institute is working with communities to tackle climate change with nature-based solutions that feature slowing water down and building more soil with grasses and plants. Research indicates that people acting in their own neighborhoods can build an inch of soil in a year and slow sea level rise down by as much as 25%. Please visit oceanriver.org for more information on opportunities to make a difference and go the distance for savvy stewardship of a greener and bluer planet Earth.
Let's talk LDL. AKA bad cholesterol. The higher your LDL cholesterol, the higher your risk of a heart attack or stroke. Your health matters. Know your number. Talk to your doctor and get your cholesterol checked. And learn how to help lower your LDL bad cholesterol. Because your health is in your hands. Find out more at heart.org/LDL.
Did you outgrow your timeshare and now you want out? but you can't. You can't sell it, and you can't get out of the contract. Imagine trying to get out of your mortgage. That's what a timeshare is. You can't just call up the bank and say, I don't want to pay it anymore. But we may be able to help you do just that. Listen, a timeshare maybe for you once was a great thing, but now you don't use it much. And they are not easy to get rid of. Plus, you do have to pay for it every month. Qualified timeshare owners can get out of their contract legally and permanently without ruining your credit or even filing bankruptcy. And imagine, no more mortgage payment or fees. Call the Timeshare Exit Hotline qualification line now. It's free to learn more.
800-455-7967. 800-455-7967. 800-455-7967. That's 800-455-7967. Paid for by Timeshare Defense.
Nobody wants to think about estate taxes or nursing home costs. But if you want to protect your money, your home, and everything you've built, you've got to get ahead of it. That's where Cushing & Dolan come in. They're experts in estate planning and elder law, and they've just released a brand new free guide called Balancing Asset Protection and Avoiding Estate Taxes. This guide lays out practical ways to keep your assets safe, and yes, even reduce or completely eliminate your estate taxes. If you already have a plan but aren't sure what your risk looks like, or you've been meaning to start one, this guide gives you exactly what you need to take control. So don't wait. Call Cushing & Dolan today at 866-848-5699 and get your free copy of their new guide called Balancing Asset Protection and Avoiding Estate Taxes. That's 866-848-5699. Or you can request it online at LegalExchangeShow.com. That's LegalExchangeShow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Hi, this is Chuck and Mike from the Armstrong Advisory Group. We have a new guide available this month titled Retirement Planning for Spouses. Mike, one of the challenges that spouses face is figuring out how to draw income in retirement and the way to optimize that income, given potentially multiple Social Security payments, portfolios, pensions. Where's a good place to start?
Yeah, of course, with a married couple, you have increased optionality about where your income comes from, which of course means increased complexity and all sorts of different decisions to be made. But yeah, first of all, you've got your Social Security. Depending on the work history of the couple, right, you might be talking about taking your own benefit. You could be taking benefits based on the working income of your spouse. There's no choice to be made there, but there is a choice to be made in terms of timing. When do we start those benefits? What's the age difference between the two of us? If there's a pension involved, what sort of survivorship benefit do we take? Do we consider life insurance as an alternative to that survivor benefit? And then, of course, your portfolio between Roth, traditional, and taxable brokerage accounts. There's a lot of decisions to be made on that side as well. So it's a lot of decision making to be made, and that's where having a good, firm plan about which income starts at what point based on our own life expectancies and taxes is really important.
Folks, the guide is titled Retirement Planning for Spouses, and there are two ways you can request it. The first is by calling 800-393-4001. The second is by visiting ArmstrongAdvisory.com. That phone number again is 800-393-4001, or request it at ArmstrongAdvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. Time now for Wall Street Watch. A complete look at what's moving markets so far today, right here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Markets are mixed as Wall Street reacts to the ADP private employment report for November, posted this morning, which fell 32,000, worse than expectations of an increase of 10,000. Right now, the Dow is up 0.4%. S&P 500 is edging 0.1% higher. NASDAQ is dipping by merely 11 points. Russell 2000 is up over 0.8%. 10-year Treasury yield down 1 basis point at 4.075%. And crude oil up about 1% higher, trading just above $59 a barrel. Macy's posted its highest quarterly sales in more than 3 years as the department store chain's turnaround strategy showed signs of momentum. Furthermore, Macy's raised its full-year sales and earnings outlook for a second consecutive quarter. However, its outlook anticipates challenges in the holiday quarter, including selective spending by consumers and higher tariffs. Macy's stock is edging higher. Meanwhile, shares in American Eagle surging 14% after the retailer beat third-quarter earnings and revenue forecasts and also raised its same-store sales guidance as it is seeing a strong start to the shopping season. Holiday shopping season, that is. Elsewhere, Delta expects to take a $200 million profit hit in the final quarter after the carrier was forced to slash flights due to the recent record government shutdown. Delta stock is rising 2%. Chip maker Marvell Technology agreed to buy Celestial AI in a $3.25 billion deal. Marvell also posted robust quarterly results and forecasts, setting shares jumping nearly 7% higher. And cybersecurity company CrowdStrike posted a bigger quarterly loss than a year ago and narrowed its annual sales growth forecast. CrowdStrike shares are down by about 2%. I'm Tucker Silva, and that is Wall Street Watch.
This is Ask Todd on the Financial Exchange Radio Network. If you have an existing estate plan or are in the market for one, Todd Lutzke is here to answer your questions and help you plan for later life. Ask Todd is presented by Cushing & Dolan, serving Massachusetts and New England for more than 35 years, helping families with estate and tax planning, Medicaid planning, and probate law. Visit CushingDolan.com. Now, here's Todd Lutzke.
As promised, we are now joined by the one and only Todd Lutzke from the law firm of Cushing & Dolan. Segment is called Ask Todd because it is your chance to ask Todd your estate planning questions. And we've got phone lines open at 888-205-2263. Again, that number is 888-205-2263. We usually get through 2 to 3 questions, so make sure you get calling early and often so you can speak to Todd. Todd, how you doing today?
I am doing great, and you?
I'm doing pretty well. I just finished writing a book on penguins.
You like penguins?
It would have been easier if I wrote it on paper.
Yeah, that's true.
But, we'll do what we can. Todd, I want to talk to you a little bit about estate taxes. When it comes to trusts, how can they help manage estate tax payments, or how much is owed on estate taxes, both at the federal and state level?
So the rule is that if you leave and this is really the trust, by the way, from an estate planning standpoint in taxes, they only work to double your exemption if you're married, right? If you're single, we all have our own exemption. And the goal is to use our exemption either before we die by gifting, if that's appropriate for you, or when you die through sheltering in trusts. If you are single, you only have one exemption, so you can't double it as a single person, just to make that clear. So as a married couple, when one spouse dies, if you've got the trust in place, right? Let's start with not having the trust in place, might be easier. If you don't have the trust in place, all the assets will simply just pass to the survivor under something called the marital deduction. It's an unlimited marital deduction. What that means is that you can leave as much as you want between spouses, and there's no tax, federal or state death tax. Which, of course, if the government's giving us this thing, it can't be good for us, right? It's generally good for them. So we need to figure out how to use it. It's good for them because now the survivor has all the assets and has successfully pushed the surviving spouse's estate into as high a possible bracket as it could be, hoping that when the survivor dies, that the value of the survivor's estate exceeds the exemption. We would hope both federally and state. Now, sometimes it might not exceed the federal, but it would exceed the state. Remember, the state exemption is only $2 million, and the federal exemption is going to be $15 million come January 1. It's $13.99 million today. when I tell you what these exemptions are, they are the amount of assets that you can leave to somebody other than a spouse and not pay tax. Go over that and you pay tax. Okay, that's a little bit about the exemptions. If you're married and you have a trust, now you put assets in the trust. Even if it's a joint trust like we were talking about last month, you put assets in the trust. On the first death, you allocate assets to a remainder share and a marital share. And these buckets are designed to hold the assets for the surviving spouse, but subjecting them to tax on the first death in a manner that will never result in tax, never result in an amount more than either the federal or the state exemption. Therefore, no tax is due on the first death. And then on the second death, the assets are held in this trust for the survivor's benefit, but they don't own them. Therefore, when the survivor dies, they're not taxed in the survivor's estate. Again, federal or state, based on the remainder share or the marital share numbers, so that you've claimed and sheltered those assets from future taxation. And that's how you use the estate tax exemptions.
Talking with Todd Lutzke from Cushing and Dolan. Still have room on the phone lines at 888-205-2263. That is the number to call to ask Todd your estate planning questions live on air right now. 888-205-2263 is the number. We're going to take a quick break here, but when we return, we are going to get right to your questions with Todd. That number is 888-205-2263. Again, it is 888-205-2263. Quick break, then your questions with Todd.
Ask Todd with Todd Lutzke every Wednesday at 10:30, only here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network. When the holidays roll in and the cold settles over New England, find your escape in the U.S. Virgin Islands. Trade the freezing temps and gray skies for warm sun, turquoise water, and that easy island energy you can feel the second you land. This December through early January, St. Croix ignites with the Crucian Christmas Festival, a celebration over a century old. Frederiksted comes alive with colorful parades, live reggae, and streets filled with the sights and flavors of real Caribbean culture. It's the holiday season with a tropical beat. From there, explore St. Thomas with its duty-free shopping and the legendary views at Maggins Bay. Or slow down on St. John, where quiet beaches and national park trails make every day feel like your own private adventure. Getting there could not be easier. No passport is needed, and there's no money to exchange. Just pack light and step out of the cold into pure sunshine. This holiday season, let yourself fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. Visit America's Caribbean paradise, the U.S. Virgin Islands. Go to visitusvi.com and book your trip today. That's visitusvi.com. Nobody wants to think about estate taxes or nursing home costs. But if you want to protect your money, your home, and everything you've built, you've got to get ahead of it. That's where Cushing and Dolan come in. They're experts in estate planning and elder law, and they've just released a brand new free guide called Balancing Asset Protection and Avoiding Estate Taxes. This guide lays out practical ways to keep your assets safe, and yes, even reduce or completely eliminate your estate taxes. If you already have a plan but aren't sure what your risk looks like, or you've been meaning to start one, this guide gives you exactly what you need to take control. So don't wait. Call Cushing and Dolan today at 866-848-5699 and get your free copy of their new guide called Balancing Asset Protection and Avoiding Estate Taxes. That's 866-848-5699. Or you can request it online at legalexchangeshow.com. That's legalexchangeshow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing and Dolan. Cushing and Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing and Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
The Armstrong Advisory Group understands retirement planning. And when it comes to married couples, it can be about more than money. Hi, this is Mike Armstrong, and our new guide called Retirement Planning for Spouses tackles many issues that couples face as they're preparing for later life. This guide keeps things simple, focusing on important matters such as making sure both partners understand where their money's coming from in retirement, being aware of scams, how to stay organized if one spouse outlives the other, and ways to handle gifts, donations, or legacy goals as a team. It's a straightforward look at the steps every couple can take to feel confident about retirement. Call the Armstrong Advisory Group right now at 800-393-4001 to get your free copy of Retirement Planning for Spouses. That's 800-393-4001, or you can request it online at armstrongadvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
It happens all over Massachusetts.
Can you tie my shoes?
In every home and every community.
Be careful on your bike.
Learning can happen anytime, anywhere.
We'll see you at practice this weekend.
And no matter how learning takes place in your family's life, DESE is there as your partner. The Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. Never stop learning. Find out more at mass.gov/back-to-school.
Sponsored by the Massachusetts Department for Elementary and Secondary Education.
Cardiovascular disease is the #1 killer of women,
taking the lives of 1 in 3.
That's more than all forms of cancer combined.
For too long, heart disease and stroke have taken the lives of the women we love.
But we're not giving up because we have something better,
stronger, more powerful.
We have each other.
When we come together and go red,
the more power we have against our greatest health threat.
Visit goredforwomen.org today to learn more.
You're listening to Ask Todd with Todd Lutzke on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Talking with Todd Lutzke from the law firm of Cushing & Dolan. We got room on the phone lines at 888-205-2263 for your estate planning questions. It's your chance to ask them to Todd. Again, that number is 888-205-2263. Todd, let's say that you've had legal work done. How do you know if the work that you've had done, the trust that you've had produced, have the necessary components to manage state and federal estate taxes?
So you always hope that your trusts are drafted right. You know, I get it that certain lawyers maybe shouldn't be doing estate tax planning and do it anyway, and maybe they're not right. So I've heard these stories, so you're right to ask the question. I think the way to do it would be when you look at your trust, there's going to be a paragraph that says what happens during the donor's life, or something to that effect. It'll say during the donor's life, and then read it. And it'll show you what you can do. So let's assume the trust is revocable for the moment. It'll show you what you can do and what you can't do. Then look, and this is whether it's irrevocable or revocable, so either trust. Then look a little further down, and it's usually in the first couple of pages, so you're not digging deep into the document. You know, look a little further down, and you're going to find a paragraph that says, upon the death of the donor, or if it's a joint trust, upon the death of the, first donor to die. There will be a marital share and a remainder share. Look, right after that, it'll say it breaks down into these buckets. If it has these two buckets, or a marital share, a special marital share, and a general marital share, if it has these three buckets broken down without trying to understand the formula, which I don't want you to try to understand, just know that likely with those buckets there, the correct formula will be in there to take care of the estate tax. That's the buckets you're looking for in order to do this. But you know what, folks? That's a great question, because the guide we're giving away this month is Balancing Asset Protection and Avoiding Estate Taxes. It talks about portability, the pros and cons of electing portability, which is exactly the exemptions, dealing with the unused exemption of this first spouse to die, which is what we talked about earlier when Chuck asked the question. And it also explains exactly the way to calculate your estate tax. It talks about a revocable trust and all three of these buckets, how they're funded, how they're designed, and you could put your own numbers in and see what tax liability you would have. It also then breaks down into a smaller section dealing with irrevocable trusts and how the marital shares and remainder shares work in those trusts to shelter estate taxes and at the same time protect it from the nursing home. So I think you'll get your answers. A little something for everyone in this guide, folks. Call and get it. It's brand new for the month. 866-848-5699 or legalexchangeshow.com. You can download it right there. Again, 866-848-5699. 888-866-5699 or legalexchangeshow.com.
Todd, got a caller on the line for you. Let's go to George in Woburn. George, what's your question for Todd Lutzke?
Hi, a question on gifting.
Sure.
My wife and I have 3 adult children, and I was wondering, we can give $19,000 each or $38,000 to each kid annually, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's not taxed, is that a better strategy than at some point, it would be in their inheritance to do an annual $38,000 gift to each kid?
Well, it kind of a function. It's a great question because gifting requires a little bit more of an analysis. So let me just ask you a question. In terms of your overall estate, real estate, money, IRAs, investments, life insurance, death benefit, give me a round number. What do you think you're worth?
$4 million-ish.
Okay. So if you're right at $4 million and you're a married couple, with proper estate planning, we should be able to completely eliminate your Massachusetts estate tax. Remember, it's a $2 million exemption each. I can't say for sure because I don't know exactly the type of assets, like how much are IRAs and how much are not IRAs and things like that. But we're pretty close to being able to eliminate your Mass estate tax, even without making the gift. Okay, even without making the gift. Now, that's the state analysis. The federal analysis is the exemption is $13.9 million each. So obviously you're way below that number. So the first thing we would say is there's no tax reason for me to make a gift to save federal estate taxes because I'm way under it. So that 40%, not an issue. Massachusetts, we turn our attention back to that and saying, well, if we go over the 4 million, let's say we're at 4.5 million, well, the tax will occur on the amount over the exemption. So, yeah, we could have some tax there. The next question would be, what's the rate? Well, it's about 10, 11% on the amount over the exemption. Okay, well, if it's 500,000, it's, 50 grand. It's taxes. I don't want to pay it. I get it. But is it worth it, right? Is it worth it? Now, for the $19,000 a piece, I assume you're giving away, would it be cash you're thinking about giving?
Yes.
Okay. So then if it's cash you're thinking about giving, you're giving it and it's not going to cause a problem at all, okay? Why it's not going to cause a problem is because cash is cash and there's no built-in gain in the cash because you have to think about capital gains tax when you make gifts and gift tax, okay? So, and estate tax. So since you're, at that realm, if you're giving away the cash and it makes you feel good, again, I get it. Giving away stuff while I'm alive, letting my kids enjoy it, letting them see it, and I see them enjoying it while I'm alive, there's a benefit to that. I like it and we can make that gift. And for the $19,000 per year per person that you mentioned, as long as it's cash, there's no problem. There's no filing a gift tax return. There's no reporting anything, and there's no paying any tax. Just write them a check and go about your business, and that can work. But again, if you're doing it because it feels good, that's fine. But it doesn't need to be done. So I'm just going to expand the question a little bit for everyone else. Folks, if I was at $5 million in an estate and I wanted to bring my estate down to $4 million so that I save the mass tax, it's okay. You can do that by making a gift, but you have to compare what it is you're giving. Like here, George doing a great deal, giving us away cash is no problem. But what if I had $1 million vacation home that I wanted to get out of my estate that's worth $5 million and I want to bring it down to $4 million, so I give away this $1 million piece of property, and well, Todd, won't that work? I'll be now at $4 million and I'll have no estate tax. Yeah, I think ultimately with the new rules, it will work, right? That will reduce your estate. And let's say we save the estate tax. How much would the estate tax be in Mass on a $5 million estate? Let's call it about $100,000, right? But what if this vacation home that I'm giving away, because that's 10% of the amount over, has a built-in gain? Maybe I bought it for $250,000. It's worth $1 million. I got $750,000 of built-in gain. Well, if I give that away, yeah, I saved the $100,000 in mass estate tax. Sounds great. But my kids now have a piece of property with a built-in gain of $750. The tax on that is somewhere around $250. $250,000 of tax because of the built-in gain on the $750. Instead, I might tell that person, keep it. I'm happier dying owning it, giving mass $100,000, because then when my family inherits it, they get a brand new basis equal to fair market value, and I save the $250,000 in capital gains tax. So lots to think about when you gift, folks. What you're giving and how to gift, very important.
Mr. Lutsky, thank you so much for joining us today.
Always a pleasure. Thank you.
This has been Ask Todd on the Financial Exchange Radio Network. Ask Todd with Todd Lutsky has been presented by Cushing & Dolan, serving Massachusetts and New England for more than 30 years, helping families with estate and tax planning, Medicaid planning, and probate law. Call 800-393-4001 or visit CushingDolan.com. The views expressed in this segment are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Armstrong Advisory does not provide any legal or tax advice. Please consult with your legal or tax advisor on such matters. Cushing and Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Still more to come as we head towards the second hour of the show. We'll be talking a little bit about holiday shopping, including Macy's latest earnings. Also going to be talking more about the current state of artificial intelligence, and then big talk that we need to have about housing heading into 2026, because the trends are unmistakable in terms of what we are seeing there. And we need to talk about, where things are probably going for housing next year. Quick break, all that and more coming up in hour 2.
Sometimes we know what's next. Other times, it's impossible to know. Life can change in an instant. Don't be caught standing by the next time someone's heart stops. Knowing CPR gives you the ability to act and takes you from bystander to lifesaver. CPR is a life-saving skill. Join the nation of lifesavers today by learning CPR at heart.org/nation. National support for CPR education provided by Elevance Health Foundation.
Are you over the age of 50? Want peace of mind and financial security for your family? Here's an important message to you from Senior Care USA. The average funeral now costs over $10,000. That leaves your loved ones the burden of paying your debts and funeral costs. Our plans start as low as $1 per day and will pay your family up to $30,000 to help pay for your funeral and other expenses. There are no medical exams. Your rates will never increase, and your plan cannot be canceled, regardless of your medical conditions, as long as you make your premium payments. Get up to $30,000 in final expense insurance. Call now for free information. Just answer a few simple questions and get approved right over the phone in just a few minutes. Call right now.
Call 800-378-3818, 800-378-3818, 800-378-3818. That's 800-378-3818.
Marc Vonner is the CEO of Veterans Development Corporation. Marc faithfully served his country from 1981 to 1984, and we're thrilled to have him as a partner and presenting sponsor of the DAV 5K Boston. Marc comes from a proud military family that includes his father Victor and brother Timmy. Marc talks often about how serving his country was one of the greatest achievements of his life, and it's one of the main reasons he chooses to give back to this special community. Marc is honored to continue the legacy that his father started when he built Veterans Development Corporation. Working to help many disabled veterans and their families has become a lifelong goal for Marc, and it's why he's taken the time to fully support the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. You can join Marc and help our great American heroes today by making a donation to support the DAV Department of Massachusetts. Please visit DAV5K.Boston. That's DAV5K.Boston.
Here at the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, we are committed to all students not only attending, but succeeding at school. Your presence is powerful. Share why you attend at doe.mass.edu.
Sponsored by the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education.
This is the Money Matters Radio Network, WBNW 1120 AM and W275 CM FM, Concord, Boston. The Money Matters Radio Network.
Environmental nonprofit Ocean River Institute is working with communities to tackle climate change with nature-based solutions that feature slowing water down and building more soil with grasses and plants. Research indicates that people acting in their own neighborhoods can build an inch of soil in a year and slow sea level rise down by as much as 25%. Please visit oceanriver.org for more information on opportunities to make a difference and go the distance for savvy stewardship of a greener and bluer planet Earth.
We're proud to announce that Circle K is now the official convenience store of the DAV Department of Massachusetts. At Circle K, supporting those who bravely served our country isn't just a commitment, it's a heartfelt mission. Circle K is honored to stand with the DAV Department of Massachusetts to ensure that veterans receive the care and recognition they deserve. If you'd like to do your part, please visit davma.org. Thank you for standing with Circle K and the DAV Department of Massachusetts, and thank you, veterans, for all you've done.
When the holidays roll in and the cold settles over New England, find your escape in the U.S. Virgin Islands. Trade the freezing temps and gray skies for warm sun, turquoise water, and that easy island energy you can feel the second you land. This December through early January, St. Croix ignites with the Crucian Christmas Festival, a celebration over a century old. Frederickstead comes alive with colorful parades, live reggae, and streets filled with the sights and flavors of real Caribbean culture. It's the holiday season with a tropical beat. From there, explore St. Thomas with its duty-free shopping and the legendary views at Maggins Bay. Or slow down on St. John, where quiet beaches and national park trails make every day feel like your own private adventure. Getting there could not be easier. No passport is needed, and there's no money to exchange. Just pack light and step out of the cold into pure sunshine. This holiday season, let yourself fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. Visit America's Caribbean paradise, the U.S. Virgin Islands. Go to visitusvi.com and book your trip today. That's visitusvi.com. If you're retired or getting close, now's the perfect time to take a fresh look at your estate plan. Doing your planning early can help you protect your assets and keep more of your wealth in your family. Cushing & Dolan, the leaders in elder law and taxation, have put together a new guide called Balancing Asset Protection and Avoiding Estate Taxes. And in it, you'll learn how to secure your assets if you ever need long-term care, how to avoid having everything tied up in probate, and how to get a clearer picture of your estate tax exposure. The guide also breaks down real options that may help you reduce or even eliminate your estate taxes when you plan the right way and plan early. Whether you have an existing estate plan or starting from scratch, this guide makes it easy to understand what steps could help you and your family in the long run. To get your free copy, call Cushing & Dolan at 866-848-5699. That's 866-848-5699. Or you can request it online at LegalExchangeShow.com. That's LegalExchangeShow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Hi, this is Chuck and Mike from the Armstrong Advisory Group, and we have a guide available this month titled Retirement Planning for Spouses. Mike, one of the things that I think is really important to focus on are some of the tax planning items that spouses need to consider basically every single year, especially if there are any kind of age differences between two spouses.
Yeah, real life example here. I was working with somebody recently who spouse just retired, and they were trying to figure out where their income is going to come from this year, and the idea of taking some money out of the IRA came up. And so it was a decision, whose do we take it out of, whose is bigger? And the decision ultimately was, we're going to go with the older spouse here because they are going to commence their required minimum distributions earlier.
And so when you're trying to formulate those decisions, whether it's an RMD that you need to consider or potentially, Roth conversions, it's something where the decisions you make one year can have lasting impacts 10, 20 years down the road, depending on the family.
They most certainly can. Again, when you have a married couple, there's increased options in terms of what to do, but that means increased complexity. Things like the widower's tax when you lose a spouse, especially if there's a big age difference down the road. These are things that you can and should plan for because they can make an immense difference in the success of your retirement strategy.
Folks, the guide is titled Retirement Planning for Spouses, and there are two ways you can request it. The first is by calling 800-393-4001. The second is by visiting ArmstrongAdvisory.com. That phone number again is 800-393-4001 or request it at ArmstrongAdvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. The Financial Exchange is produced by Money Matters Radio and is hosted by employees of the Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. All opinions expressed are solely those of the hosts, do not reflect the opinions of Armstrong Advisory or anyone else. Investments can lose money. This program does not offer any specific financial or investment advice. Please consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong Advisory and the advertisers heard on this program do not endorse each other or their services. Armstrong and Money Matters Radio do not compensate each other for referrals and are not affiliated. This is the Financial Exchange with Chuck Zodda and Marc Fandetti. Your exclusive look at business and financial news affecting your day, your city, your world. Stay informed and up to date about economic and market trends, plus breaking business news every day. The Financial Exchange is a proud partner of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. Help us support our great American heroes by visiting dav5k.boston and making a donation today. This is the Financial Exchange with Chuck Zodda and Marc Fandetti.
And as we kick things off here, the S&P 500's up 11 points, the Dow is up 180 points, and the NASDAQ up 9 points. So you got a modest move upward in indices that is happening at the moment here. Again, nothing too significant, and look, especially into the end of the year, things tend to be pretty quiet with some modest upward drift, and that appears to be what is taking place today in equity markets. U.S. 10-year Treasury is down 1.1 basis points to 4.077%. The dollar index down 0.39% to 98.905. Gold is up 31.10 an ounce to 42.51 cents, and crude oil up 81 cents a barrel on West Texas Intermediate to 59.45. AAA national average for gas prices, as expected, under $3 a gallon, finally at $2.99 and 9/10 of a cent. So we'll see if we can hang out under $3 a gallon nationally for a little bit here. By the way, the other side of this, what is happening right now, nat gas prices, don't know if anyone's been paying attention there. The answer is probably no, because, well, no one even knows how nat gas is priced, quite honestly. But we did clear $5 on the nat gas futures contract today. First time we have cleared that mark in... I'm trying to think if we got there. Yeah, back in 2022, we were there. And this represents, relative to where we were last year, about a 35% jump in nat gas prices. Why this matters? Nat gas, big electricity supply for the United States. Very likely, if we continue to see this kind of pricing moving through the winter, it is something that very likely gets us towards even higher electricity prices in 2026 as a result. So just something to be aware of on that side of things. Marc, let's see. I want to kick things off this hour. I didn't talk to either of you about this, but I want to talk about housing for next year, because I think housing in 2026 is going to be one of like the 2 or 3 most important stories in the economy. And this is something that we've been talking about all year, but we're now at the point where very likely in Q1 of next year, at the very latest by Q2, nationally, average home prices are likely to be negative year over year. In a number of metros, we're already seeing that that is the case. When you look at the Case-Shiller Home Price Index, and specifically their 20-city index that they have out there, a number of those major metros are already seeing year-over-year declines in pricing. Atlanta is, Dallas is, Denver, Vegas, Miami, Phoenix, Portland, San Diego, San Francisco, Seattle, and Tampa. All those are negative year over year. The remaining ones in the 20-city index, Boston, Charlotte, Chicago, Cleveland, Detroit, LA, Minneapolis, New York, and DC, are not negative. They're still positive. Several of those likely to go negative in the next month or two, and you got a few markets that are holding up better. Minneapolis and Boston kind of being the two best at holding up to this point in terms of year-over-year price growth. But where we are heading next year is very likely lower prices but higher volume because of those lower prices, and it means a couple different things. The first is if you're on the financial side for housing, meaning you're a mortgage originator or, someone along those lines, probably more activity next year is what you would expect to see. On the other hand, if you are a builder or someone on the construction side, lower pricing for housing typically means you're going to struggle to see, new construction numbers moving in the right direction. And there could be some pain on that side there. So kind of a tale of, the two sides of the housing industry. But ultimately, I think this is where we are heading next year, which is lower volumes. But this is the first time that I'll go out there and say I think that we're probably, higher volumes, lower prices. I think we're probably going to see higher volumes next year. Maybe again, we'll have to see how this develops. But you've got a potential for, 10 to 15% volume growth, and that is good towards restoring an overall healthy market, even if it comes at the cost of lower prices for sellers in the short term.
That's probably the key point, restoring, I'll just say balance in some generic sense, because I'm not a housing economist. There are specialists in this area who I'm sure have studied this sort of phenomenon. The phenomenon being we have had unsustainably high growth in home prices over the past 5 years, about 50% growth in home prices using the Case-Shiller index that you talked about. I'm using the national as opposed to the 20-city. But the results, the story is similar. So 50% over the last 5 as opposed to about half that rate. And that's obviously cumulative in the 5 years before that. That's abnormal. That's unsustainable. You think about unemployment. We got to 4%. That is probably, I'll just say, unnaturally low, certainly below the rate which does not put upward pressure on inflation. The economy, said differently, was running too hot after COVID. We overstimulated this. One very tangible result was inflation. There was also inflation in asset prices, home prices, stock prices. The next several years, and I don't want to oversimplify here because there will be shocks that come from unforeseeable events, that maybe a favorable shock like AI productivity enhancing, the productivity enhancing adoption of AI, boosting growth more than was anticipated, or some unfavorable shock, sapping growth. The point is, growth was probably unsustainably high for several quarters, maybe even a few years following COVID. And what we're seeing in different markets now, with the exception of stocks, which are still kind of on a rampage, is maybe some kind of normalization. And I don't want to overstate that notion of the economy settling down, because it never does. It's fluid. Its structure's always changing. But we may be in for a period. I guess what I should just say in quick summary is we may be in for a period of disappointing relative to recent experience, growth in all areas. Yeah, look, I know everyone always wants the economy to be able to move only in one direction, but the fact is that economies, they're living, breathing things because they are made up of living, breathing things. They can't just go at one speed forever. They have these ebbs and flows that happen. We call it, the business cycle. There's a reason why those cycles tend to work the way they do. This one, since 2020, has been very different just because it had a completely different launch than any other business cycle, starting in March of 2020 and kind of going from there. But ultimately, the reason why everyone is talking about, specifically as it relates to housing, affordability being a problem is because things are broken on the affordability side of things right now. And there are different ways that can happen.
what we're seeing right now is, look, home prices and specifically monthly payments are too high relative to incomes to support normal transaction volume in housing. And so housing prices either have to fall in, nominal terms, actually come down, or incomes have to catch up and housing, has to stay flat while incomes grow. There are two ways that you can get to normalization there. It seems like we're heading towards, home prices falling modestly. I don't think this is anything that's necessarily huge from a national perspective, but you do already have individual markets that have fallen 15 to 20%. You take a look at Southwest Florida, kind of that Fort Myers region, and you've got home prices off like 15, 20% from the peak there at this point already. You're not going to see that in Burlington, Vermont, because things didn't get nutty in Burlington, Vermont over the last, 15 years. But yeah, like you're going to have this normalization that needs to happen. And this is how you have this ebb and flow that happens in housing from time to time. The inverse of this is what we saw in 2010 and 2011, where home prices had crashed following the Great Recession. And if you were lucky enough to be able to scoop up deals there, like you could, and you were able to buy very cheaply, and that in turn normalized over, a 5 to 7 year period where I think you could realistically look at like 2015 through 2018 and say, yeah, those were pretty normal levels of affordability based on historical trends and things like that. So we've got this thing to sort through now, and I want to take a quick break here, but when we come back, what's the ooh?
Well, maybe on the other side.
On the other side.
Wow, what a great tease.
on the other side.
What is it? Are you having a heart attack? More when we come back.
Quite
Stay
literally.
tuned.
We're going to tell Financial Exchange every day from 11 to noon on SiriusXM's Business Radio Channel 132. Keep it here for the latest business and financial news and the trends on Wall Street. The Financial Exchange is now live on SiriusXM's Business Radio Channel 132. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
We're proud to announce that Circle K is now the official convenience store of the DAV Department of Massachusetts. At Circle K, supporting those who bravely served our country isn't just a commitment, it's a heartfelt mission. Circle K is honored to stand with the DAV Department of Massachusetts to ensure that veterans receive the care and recognition they deserve. If you'd like to do your part, please visit davma.org. Thank you for standing with Circle K and the DAV Department of Massachusetts, and thank you, veterans, for all you've done.
Make protecting your assets easier by getting Cushing & Dolan's new guide called Balancing Asset Protection and Avoiding Estate Taxes. You'll learn how to keep your assets out of the nursing home and get strategies that may help reduce or even eliminate your estate taxes. Get your copy right now by calling 866-848-5699. That's 866-848-5699. Or request it online at legalexchangeshow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Dolan and Armstrong Advisory do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
The Armstrong Advisory Group understands retirement planning, and when it comes to married couples, it can be about more than money. Hi, this is Mike Armstrong, and our new guide called Retirement Planning for Spouses tackles many issues that couples face as they're preparing for later life. This guide keeps things simple, focusing on important matters such as making sure both partners understand where their money's coming from in retirement, being aware of scams, how to stay organized if one spouse outlives the other, and ways to handle gifts, donations, or legacy goals as a team. It's a straightforward look at the steps every couple can take to feel confident about retirement. Call the Armstrong Advisory Group right now at 800-393-4001 to get your free copy of Retirement Planning for Spouses. That's 800-393-4001, or you can request it online at armstrongadvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
Marc Vonner is the CEO of Veterans Development Corporation. His dedication to serving our veterans has made an incredible impact on his family and employees. And He is so proud to be the presenting sponsor of the DAV 5K Boston.
My name is Ashley Vonner, Director of Operations at Veterans Development Corporation. I wanted to learn the family business under the guidance of my father, Marc Vonner. VDC is more than a general contractor. It's a service-disabled, veteran-owned small business that goes above and beyond for the veteran community. With Marc's military background, serving in the Marine Corps, our company is committed to supporting the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. VDC has been the presenting sponsor for the DAV 5K for many years, striving to spread awareness of this great organization. Working for Veterans Development Corporation has shaped me into the person I am today, and I am proud to be a part of this organization.
Please visit DAV5K.Boston to show your support today.
Hey, listen, are you a 50-year-old person looking for term life insurance? Then you need to talk to Bob. Bob specializes in helping people find $1 million or more of term life insurance for a couple of $100 a month. Look, you need to know there's a price war in the term life insurance business, and you may be paying too much. Call Bob, and he'll shop and see how much money he can save you. Look, this could be the last term life insurance policy you ever have. Your rates are guaranteed for the next 20 years. That's right, guaranteed level rates for the next 20 years. And if you're a smoker or your health is not perfect, Bob has great rates for you too. So for $1 million of term life insurance coverage for a couple of $100 a month, call Bob right now. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. That's 800-965-7987. Paid for by Term Direct.
The Financial Exchange streams live on YouTube. Subscribe to our page and stay up to date on breaking business news all morning long. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
The Financial Exchange is incredibly proud to be a partner of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. If you didn't have a chance to participate in this year's race, but would still like to support our great American heroes, please visit DAV5K.Boston. Your gifts help fund free rides to medical appointments for veterans and the nation's first DAV-led housing initiative, providing homes for single veterans and veteran families. Go to DAV5K.Boston and make your donation today. That's DAV5K.Boston. Time for trivia here on the Financial Exchange, and today is Brendan Fraser's 57th birthday. Fraser made his breakthrough in 1992 with starring roles in School Ties and Encino Man. After years in Hollywood purgatory, Fraser reclaimed his stardom by winning Best Actor at the Academy Awards in 2023. So, trivia question today. Brendan Fraser's performance in which movie earned him his Oscar for Best Actor? Once again, Brendan Fraser's performance in which movie earned him his Oscar for Best Actor? Be the fourth person today to text us at 617-362-1385 with the correct answer, along with the keyword trivia, and you'll win a Financial Exchange Show t-shirt. Once again, the fourth correct response to text us to the number 617-362-1385 with the keyword trivia will win that t-shirt. See complete contest rules at financialexchangeshow.com.
Was it George of the Jungle?
No, that was not 2023.
No, it wasn't that.
He's actually really good in
The Mummy?
He won it for. No.
Okay. Anyways, last segment, we were discussing housing, and specifically affordability of housing relative to long-term trends. And Marc said, ooh, as he was looking at his computer, and we didn't know what he was looking at.
Everybody
and
was
so,
concerned.
So
Is
now
Cyber Monday deal extended to today, Marc?
Yeah, so now we're going to see Alexander Ovechkin's 905th goal. No, what do you got for us, Marc?
Well, one way to think about how overvalued, assuming you think they are, the very phrase overvalued implies that you think there's a fair value or that there's been some departure from, I'll just call it trend growth, which is a reasonable way to look at it. If you define trend very generously, like including the last 5 years, which is problematic because it may be an anomaly, but if I include that, home prices, you just based on this very simple trend-fitting, curve-fitting, so to speak, exercise, you could conclude that home prices are between 10 and 15% too high relative to their relative to the long sort of sweep of history.
Sure.
Actually, this database only goes back to 1989. So it could take, at the pace that includes the growth of the last 5 years, so I'm assuming that's a normal thing, which is dubious potentially. It could take a few years of flat, and this is, by the way, would be an orderly resolution to the excesses of the last 5 years. If you accept that there have been excesses, could take a few years of flat prices to get back to trend.
Yes.
Which is not like disastrous. It's just not what we're accustomed to.
It's one of the paths that you could take.
It's one.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And so I think ultimately the path that it seems like we're heading down at this point, again, things can change next year, but we're likely heading towards home prices falling modestly nationwide, more sharply in some specific markets. And with that, here's the implication. Like, I want everyone right now who's listening, I want you to put on your home builder hat, which is, sitting in the passenger seat right next to you. And you're a home builder right now. And you're trying to sell the average American home today, $400,000. And you say, okay, I'm selling these houses for $400,000. Good. I can make, if after I get through all my costs, I can make $25,000 on that, about a 6% margin selling these homes, and that's fine. So now let's look at this from the perspective of, okay, you're trying to sell that home, and right now you're competing against an existing home that's priced at $380,000. It's cheaper because it's used. Someone's lived in it. Someone's used the plumbing. They've used the electricity. The roof might be a few years older. So it's 5% cheaper than the new home that you're selling. Now imagine a world in which that home that you're competing against, but there's still someone who's willing to pay that extra $20,000 because they want it new and they want, what they want. But now imagine that home that you're competing against falls from being worth $380,000 on the open market to $360,000. Again, a modest 4 to 5% decline there. You are now trying to sell your home, and the person who previously would have bought your home says, you know what? I really like this house, but it's $400,000, and there's one in that neighborhood over there. I know it's 10 years old, but it's $40,000 cheaper. It's going to cut my monthly payment from, $2,000 a month down to $1,800 a month, and that's a big enough difference for me. I'm going to go with that other one. And you do the only thing that you can do because you've spent your money building this house. You say, you know what? Fine, I'll let this go for $380,000. The issue is after you've done that, you're sitting there and you go, well, I was going to have a $25,000 profit on this house. Now I just made $5,000 building a $380,000 home. That's not really great for me. So the first thing that you do is you go and you start squeezing your subcontractors. You say, hey, can you do anything cheaper than, what we were just, doing? And they might have a little bit of wiggle room, but there's only so much that you can do because, your subs have to pay their people, and it's just how it is. And so where you eventually get to as a GC who's building these homes is you say, you know what? I can't have my profits eaten into by 80%. I'm just not going to build as many homes because I can still sell the $400,000 home, but I might only be able to sell 2 of them next year because of where demand is instead of the 4 I thought I was going to. And then the ripple effect is, hey, your subs now don't need as many people employed because they don't have as much work. You have layoffs that happen there. And this is why housing tends to be kind of that driver of marginal economic activity. And this is why I'm personally a little bit nervous about where it could go next year, is because lower home prices very likely means a further drop in new construction, which means we start to have employment issues in the trades.
Is that baked into the cake, given the what I'll call the excesses of the last several years?
Like baked into
any way to avoid it? Any way to avoid this outcome that you're referring to?
Yes.
Maybe we should talk about that on the other side.
Another great tease.
I'm
Look
Mr.
at that.
Yeah.
Let's
call me Mr. Tease today.
Let's take a quick break, and when we return, Mr. Tease is back.
bringing the latest financial news straight to your radio every day. It's the Financial Exchange on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Environmental nonprofit Ocean River Institute is working with communities to tackle climate change with nature-based solutions that feature slowing water down and building more soil with grasses and plants. Research indicates that people acting in their own neighborhoods can build an inch of soil in a year and slow sea level rise down by as much as 25%. Please visit oceanriver.org for more information on opportunities to make a difference and go the distance for savvy stewardship of a greener and bluer planet Earth.
Cardiovascular disease is the #1 killer of women,
taking the lives of 1 in 3.
That's more than all forms of cancer combined.
For too long, heart disease and stroke have taken the lives of the women we love.
But we're not giving up because we have something better,
Stronger, more powerful.
We have each other.
When we come together and go red,
The more power we have against our greatest health threat.
Visit GoRedForWomen.org today to learn more.
Marc Vonner is the CEO of Veterans Development Corporation. Marc is a career military man, having served for nearly 20 years, and we are so thrilled to have him and his company as a key partner and the presenting sponsor of the DAV 5K Boston. Marc comes from a proud military family, including his father Victor and his brother Timmy. Marc talks often about how serving his country was one of the greatest achievements of his life, and that's one of the key reasons that he chooses to give back to this special community. Marc is honored to continue his legacy that his father started when he built Veterans Development Corporation. Working to help many disabled veterans and their families has become a lifelong goal for Marc, and it's why he's taken the time to fully support the DAV Department of Massachusetts. You can join Marc Vonner and Veterans Development Corporation and help our great American heroes today by making a donation or becoming a sponsor. Simply visit dav5k.boston. That's dav5k.boston.
The Armstrong Advisory Group understands retirement planning, and when it comes to married couples, it can be about more than money. Hi, this is Mike Armstrong, and our new guide called Retirement Planning for Spouses tackles many issues that couples face as they're preparing for later life. This guide keeps things simple, focusing on important matters such as making sure both partners understand where their money's coming from in retirement, being aware of scams, how to stay organized if one spouse outlives the other, and ways to handle gifts, donations, or legacy goals as a team. It's a straightforward look at the steps every couple can take to feel confident about retirement. Call the Armstrong Advisory Group right now at 800-393-4001 to get your free copy of Retirement Planning for Spouses. That's 800-393-4001, or you can request it online at armstrongadvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
This is Tucker Silva of the Financial Exchange Show, and I'm joined today by estate planning attorney Todd Lutzke from the law firm of Cushing & Dolan with your Financial Exchange quick tip of the day. And today, we're talking about estate tax reduction and asset protection strategies that can help reduce or eliminate your estate taxes. Todd, there are some high net worth clients that would like to reduce the size of their estate, but they don't want to give up access to their assets. Is there anything they can do?
There certainly is, folks. So this is a combination of things. One, you obviously want to do your basic estate planning first. Get your foundation in place, the basic revocable trust planning to help utilize whatever exemptions you don't use up through gifting. Now, when we talk about reducing the estate, we are talking about gifting. But as you said, they don't want to lose control. So there are these special trusts that are designed called spousal lifetime access trusts, where in essence, you use an LLC to keep control of the investments, manage the investments, and make distributions. And then the non-voting shares get put into these irrevocable trusts where you have each other's spouse has access to the assets. So there's a way of getting the assets into those irrevocable trusts, which are now growing outside of your estate tax free, while at the same time working together to keep control and use what's in those trusts.
The law firm of Cushing & Dolan have been helping families like yours for more than 40 years. Request your copy of Todd's brand new guide called Balancing Asset Protection and Avoiding Estate Taxes by calling 866-848-5699. That's 866-848-5699. 5699, or you can request the guide from their website, legalexchangeshow.com.
The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing and Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated. Time now for Wall Street Watch. A complete look at what's moving markets so far today, right here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Markets are trading modestly higher as Wall Street reacts to the ADP private payroll report for November, which fell 32,000, worse than forecasts of an increase of 10,000. At the moment, the Dow is up by just over 0.5%. S&P 500 is up 0.25%. NASDAQ up 0.1%. Russell 2000 is up just over 1% higher. 10-year Treasury yield is flat at 4.079%. And crude oil up 1.33%, trading at $59.42 a barrel. Macy's posted its highest quarterly sales in more than 3 years as the department store chain's turnaround strategy showed signs of momentum. Furthermore, the company raised its full-year sales and earnings outlook for a second consecutive quarter. However, Macy's outlook anticipates challenges in the holiday quarter, including selective spending by consumers and higher tariffs. Macy's stock is edging higher. Meanwhile, shares in American Eagle surging 14% after the retailer beat third quarter earnings and revenue forecasts and also raised its same-store sales guidance as it is seeing a strong start to the holiday shopping period. Elsewhere, Microsoft down by 2% after the information reported that the company has lowered quotas for AI software sales after many of its salespeople missed growth goals in the last fiscal year. And chipmaker Marvell Technology agreed to buy Celestial AI in a $3.25 billion deal. Marvell also posted robust quarterly results and forecasts, sending shares jumping over 4% higher. I'm Tucker Silva, and that is Wall Street Watch. And in the previous segment, we asked you the question, Brendan Fraser's performance in which movie earned him his Oscar for Best Actor? That would be The Whale. Nick in Weston, Mass. is our winner today, taking home a Financial Exchange Show t-shirt. Congrats to Nick. And we play trivia every day here on the Financial Exchange. See complete contest rules at financialexchangeshow.com.
Mark, what was the latest thing that you teased last segment? What were we talking about? I forgot.
Oh, jeez.
No, I'm asking you for real.
No, because Mark forgot too.
Sorry. I only remember
housing related.
Making noises. That's
No, it wasn't a noise last time. Tucker, do you remember what it was?
I don't know, because he did the old tongue roll thing that I can't do. It's like a
It's funny. That's
sexy
all we
noise.
all. That's all we all remember is.
But it was something that a light bulb
feats
went off in your head, and you're like, "Oh, I got something else."
Does Ben remember?
No, I don't think he does. The only person who should remember
Hang on, Ben
is
open
Mark.
the door.
How to fix the problem with home builders.
How to fix the problem with home builders.
Doesn't ring a bell. I was here for that.
I don't think we talked about that either.
Okay, so Mark asked the question, is it already baked in, and is there still time?
Is there any way to avoid
fix
this fate?
The home building
I posed
issue.
that question to you. Chuck, is there any way to avoid this fate?
And then that's what we were going to talk about?
Has the die been cast? Yeah, it's not actually that exciting in retrospect, but...
No, it sounds exciting, though.
Okay. You were pointing out that a lot of... that. Quick summary, the die is cast.
So it's going to be... It's tough to avoid because here's what's happening is as home prices start to go down, the first thing that you get is a larger number of potential sellers saying one of two things. No, I'm not going to sell. I'm going to wait and see if it gets better. Right. Or people pulling listings off the market because they say, no, I'm not going to take less than I think my home is worth. Eventually, you get to a point where those non-forced sellers become forced sellers, where instead of saying, hey, we'd like to sell, but only if we can get X, Y, or Z, eventually they become, hey, you know what? It's time for us to move because of these reasons. We got to list the place, and that's when you see inventory continue to build at a faster clip, which means lower prices again needed to clear that inventory. So I think that there was a path where you could have gone through the next 3 to 4 years and just said, yeah, maybe home prices just don't go anywhere.
That would be ideal.
And wages continue to grow at 2 to 4% a year, and you normalize that 10 to 15% gap in historical affordability through wages growing while home prices don't. The path that it looks like we are heading down, now that we are seeing, continued inventory growth year over year at least. Right now we're seeing inventory about 16% above last year and only about 5% below 2019 levels for this time in the year. You're seeing inventory continuing to grow on a relative basis, and with that, you are seeing an uptick in new mortgage applications as well. But if you look at the size of the mortgage applications, it's declining, which also matches the decline that we are seeing in price per square foot for listings. So basically what we are getting, the message that the market is sending us, and again, this is just, you're interpreting what the data is saying. The market is saying, hey, people are more willing to list now and take lower prices on a per square foot basis than a year ago, rather than trying to wait for better pricing in the future to sell their home. And as long as more people are continuing to do that, home prices are going to continue to decline in those markets, and price gains in other markets are likely to become more muted and eventually start declining as well. That's kind of where we're heading. In terms of, are equity markets pricing this in? I don't think they are.
No, they think the Fed's going to save the day. They think we have a demand problem that they can fix.
And we do have a demand problem. It's just not one that the Fed can fix without the level of rate cuts needed that are typically signaled by a recession. It's like,
I see what you're saying, yeah.
If you get Fed funds rate down to 1.5% to 2%, sure, that probably takes the long end down far enough that mortgage rates come down and fix the housing market.
Shouldn't prices move inversely to that? Shouldn't that send prices skyrocketing again? Isn't that precisely the predicament? Isn't that precisely how we got into this predicament?
That's assuming that you think that we're at equilibrium for pricing now, which I don't think we are. So let's play out the string here just as an example. Let's say that you have prices that are 15% above where they should be.
Yep.
10-year Treasury is at 4 right now. 30-year fixed rate mortgage is at 6 1/3. If you get a recession, the first thing that happens, demand's going to come down further because demand does come down in a recession for housing. So that's going to widen that affordability gap for what you need is going to end up widening there. The other piece is that the long end, even if the Fed cuts by, let's say they cut by another 150 bips and they get us down to 2.5 on the Fed funds rate, 10 years not coming down by that much. The 10 years not coming down to 2.5
No, it's not going
to
be 1 for 1, no.
So maybe you pick up 5 to 7% on the affordability gap there, but prices still have to fall another 7 to 10% from there to close the rest of the gap. So again, it's a really hard path for me to see anything other now than the combination of pricing and wages, probably over a 2-year period now, where wages, they'll go up 5% and prices nationally will come down 8 to 10. That kind of gets you where you need to be, and housing is ready to crank in 2028 again from a construction perspective. But 26 and 27 might be really hard for home builders.
They should be, I hate to say it, they should be if you think there's validity to looking at the long-term trend and the departure from long-term trend that the last 5 years resulted in, and assuming that gap's got to close. Your view may be, not you, but people listening,
sure,
well, the structure of the economy has changed. I think that housing should continue to grow at, I'm going to say 4%, which includes the past 5 years, so that might be, that's conservative, that's fair. I think 4 to 7% for housing is fair based on my little model, my mental model for the structure of the economy, in which case you don't need a dramatic pullback. I just don't know.
When the holidays roll in and the cold settles over New England, find your escape in the U.S. Virgin Islands. Trade the freezing temps and gray skies for warm sun, turquoise water, and that easy island energy you can feel the second you land. This December through early January, St. Croix ignites with the Crucian Christmas Festival, a celebration over a century old. Frederickstead comes alive with colorful parades, live reggae, and streets filled with the sights and flavors of real Caribbean culture. It's the holiday season with the tropical beat. From there, explore St. Thomas with its duty-free shopping and the legendary views at Magen's Bay, or slow down on St. John, where quiet beaches and national park trails make every day feel like your own private adventure. Getting there could not be easier. No passport is needed, and there's no money to exchange. Just pack light and step out of the cold into pure sunshine. This holiday season, let yourself fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. Visit America's Caribbean Paradise, the U.S. Virgin Islands. Go to visitusvi.com and book your trip today. That's visitusvi.com.
Let's see. We got a few other things to talk about here. Anthropic, one of the companies that is on the forefront of large language models, artificial intelligence, generative AI, they've apparently hired a law firm to begin working on a potential IPO for next year. Them and OpenAI potentially both IPOing in 2026 is something that is interesting from a number of different perspectives. One that I look at, it would be really cool to be able to actually see their financials on a regular basis and see, what's actually going on in terms of revenue and expenses, aside from these, random reports that we get out from private sales and things like that. So that'd be kind of interesting. The other thing that I've touched on a few different occasions, sometimes when you get like the big white whale in a specific industry that goes through an IPO, it can represent a local top for that industry. We covered it back in 2021 when Coinbase and Robinhood both went public, and it was kind of the top of the meme stock and crypto trading, era at that point. 2022 was very bad for both of those businesses, and then they've subsequently recovered. We've also had earlier this year, CoreWeave went public, had a ton of trouble, kind of getting things off the ground, and we saw kind of other AI companies really struggling heading into April before you got a flurry of announcements that changed the game heading into the summer then. And so this is kind of interesting to me in that, it always just raises the question for me, could it represent a local top for that, particular industry? Maybe. I don't know, but it's something that's always on my mind when we hear about these big IPOs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, almost by definition, it would kind of have to. They want to strike while the iron is hot, and they think it won't always be this hot. For personal reasons, they want to cash out.
There's a reason why they want the exit.
They've got shares valued at pennies on the public dollar, on the public valuation dollar, so you're highly motivated. And their people presumably have all been paid, not insubstantially anyway, paid in stock. So this is their opportunity to cash in and earn money that will keep their family comfortable for generations, I guess. Just look at it that way. The other, I guess, is that their voracious appetite for and need for capital. That's why you go public. It's not all cynical. It's not all about cashing in. It's about raising money.
Let's take a quick break. When we come back, Stack Roulette.
Find daily interviews and full shows of the Financial Exchange on our YouTube page. Subscribe to our page and get caught up on anything and everything you might have missed. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Marc Vonner is the CEO of Veterans Development Corporation. His dedication to serving our veterans has made an incredible impact on his family and employees. And he is so proud to be the presenting sponsor of the DAV 5K Boston.
My name is Ashley Vonner, Director of Operations at Veterans Development Corporation. I wanted to learn the family business under the guidance of my father, Marc Vonner. VDC is more than a general contractor. It's a service-disabled, veteran-owned small business that goes above and beyond for the veteran community. With Marc's military background, serving in the Marine Corps, our company is committed to supporting the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. VDC has been the presenting sponsor for the DAV 5K for many years, striving to spread awareness of this great organization. Working for Veterans Development Corporation has shaped me into the person I am today, and I am proud to be a part of this organization.
Please visit dav5k.boston to show your support today.
When the holidays roll in and the cold settles over New England, find your escape in the U.S. Virgin Islands. Trade the freezing temps and gray skies for warm sun, turquoise water, and that easy island energy you can feel the second you land. This December through early January, St. Croix ignites with the Crucian Christmas Festival, a celebration over a century old. Frederiksted comes alive with colorful parades, live reggae, and streets filled with the sights and flavors of real Caribbean culture. It's the holiday season with a tropical beat. From there, explore St. Thomas with its duty-free shopping and the legendary views at Maggins Bay. Or slow down on St. John, where quiet beaches and national park trails make every day feel like your own private adventure. Getting there could not be easier. No passport is needed, and there's no money to exchange. Just pack light and step out of the cold into pure sunshine. This holiday season, let yourself fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. Visit America's Caribbean paradise, the U.S. Virgin Islands. Go to visitusvi.com and book your trip today. That's visitusvi.com.
The Armstrong Advisory Group understands retirement planning. And when it comes to married couples, it can be about more than money. Hi, this is Mike Armstrong, and our new guide called Retirement Planning for Spouses tackles many issues that couples face as they're preparing for later life. This guide keeps things simple, focusing on important matters such as making sure both partners understand where their money's coming from in retirement, being aware of scams, how to stay organized if one spouse outlives the other, and ways to handle gifts, donations, or legacy goals as a team. It's a straightforward look at the steps every couple can take to feel confident about retirement. Call the Armstrong Advisory Group right now at 800-393-4001 to get your free copy of Retirement Planning for Spouses. That's 800-393-4001, or you can request it online at armstrongadvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
Are you over the age of 50? Want peace of mind and financial security for your family? Here's an important message to you from Senior Care USA. The average funeral now costs over $10,000. That leaves your loved ones the burden of paying your debts and funeral costs. Our plans start as low as $1 per day and will pay your family up to $30,000 to help pay for your funeral and other expenses. There are no medical exams. Your rates will never increase, and your plan cannot be canceled, regardless of your medical conditions, as long as you make your premium payments. Get up to $30,000 in final expense insurance. Call now for free information. Just answer a few simple questions and get approved right over the phone in just a few minutes. Call right now.
Call 800-378-3818. 800-378-3818. 800-378-3818. That's 800-378-3818.
The Financial Exchange is live on SiriusXM's Business Radio Channel 132, weekdays from 11 to noon. Get the latest business and financial news from across the country and around the world, and keep up to date on how it might affect your wallet. That's the Financial Exchange, weekdays from 11 to noon on SiriusXM's Business Radio Channel 132. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
This segment of the Financial Exchange is powered by Circle K Convenience Stores. Circle K is now the official convenience store of the DAV Department of Massachusetts. On behalf of Circle K, thank you, veterans, for all you've done. And remember, you can watch the Financial Exchange show live every day on YouTube. We'll have breaking business news, and all of our content is also archived. So if you want to go back and see an interview or discussion about a specific topic, it's all there with the click of a button. Just search the Financial Exchange on YouTube and hit that subscribe button.
Mark, what do you got for me for Stack Roulette?
Kind of a funny story, maybe a little bit alarming too. I don't know. Waymo's from the Wall Street Journal. Waymo's self-driving cars are suddenly behaving like cabbies. So apparently, I've never ridden in a Waymo. You guys, autonomous?
No, I know Mike
so these are self-driving taxis for those that don't know. They're known for being cautious. They'll sit behind a driver that's stopped with their hazards on. They won't pass when most of us probably would. That kind of stuff. They'll stop like at a yellow light. Most of us might kind of assertively drive through a yellow light. So kind of annoying stuff if you've hailed a cab maybe or in a hurry. So they're changing their programming to make them more, quote, human-like in their driving behavior, including more aggressive maneuvers, rushing pedestrians along. I don't know exactly how you do that, maybe by not slowing down. and occasionally bending traffic rules, which is, I guess, a euphemism because they're actually making illegal U-turns. Many people are documenting this, recording this behavior. So next step in the evolution of self-driving cars, making them more like us.
But hopefully in ways that don't cause problems. Because, again, here's the thing that I come back to on self-driving vehicles. I'm both pro and anti self-driving vehicle, which is why I think I'm generally in the right spot. We do need to get past, commenting on every last thing that a self-driving car does, because if we're going to be intellectually honest with ourselves, we don't do that when we're talking about how humans drive.
Of course not.
Like we never report on, the 100 deaths that happen every day from cars driving around the United States.
That's right.
Which happens. Again, we could do an entire show on it. It would be horribly depressing because all of these people should still be alive. With self-driving vehicles, provided that you have, proper disclosures about, how they're operating, what their safety record is, and that, you have, the right information out there. Look, Waymo, for, any concerns that people have about him, has never been involved in an at-fault fatality. Like, never. And they've driven millions of miles.
That's pretty
in these things,
miraculous.
which is pretty amazing.
It is.
So, again, this is not to say, like, every self-driving vehicle is good, but, hey, they've got a really good safety record, and they're making these changes to make the driving experience more like what you normally get and to save time. Like, one of the examples they give is, like, hey, if you're on a 2-lane road with double yellow lines and there's a big Amazon truck stopped in front of you, does the human driver just stop and wait for the Amazon driver to get out? No, they look, see if anyone's coming, and then you pull around on the double yellow line road. Waymo is now starting to allow its vehicles to do similar things.
Right.
So, again, I think that provided that we, do the research that's needed and have, appropriate controls in place and accurate data that's coming out about, any accidents or issues that occur, let's continue to develop this. It is going to potentially impact employment, like we have to know that as well. But remember, productivity growth comes from being able to do more with fewer inputs, and typically those inputs are labor. Look at farming in the United States. The number of farmers has dropped by 85% in the last 100 years, and yet yields are up so much that we are continuing to be able to feed the population. So we have to, work to try to support people who might be displaced by automation where it comes. And quite honestly, I think a lot of us are unfortunately in a position where we may be displaced over the next 5 to 10 years if these technologies pan out the way some people think they can be. So we're all going to have to kind of support each other on this stuff. But I do like to see, that we can, maybe get there in some of these areas too. Markets broadly positive now with the Dow and S&P in the green. Actually, NASDAQ just turned negative again. But we'll be back tomorrow with more Financial Exchange.
If you're a